Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Kicking off hour 3 of Follow the Money live in downtown Las Vegas, the Circa Resort and Casino, alongside Jonathan Von Tobel, Stormy Buonantony with you. Still plenty to come up in this final hour of the program. About 30 minutes, we'll have Stephen Hennessey of Golf Digest help us break down the Open Championship that's set to begin this weekend. Also, continuing VSiN's football training camp week. Got a little NFL. For anyone who missed it yesterday, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN revealed his latest poll compiling the selections of the top quarterbacks in the NFL from different execs, scouts, and coaches. So that'll be an interesting conversation, not just about where certain players were ranked, but season-long prop opportunities there. But what we're going to start off with doing is talking a little college football, because JVT and I typically host Money Moves during the week from 12 to 2 Eastern, where we decided we were going to make our own Money Moves top 25 in college football. Yesterday, we revealed teams 25 and 24 in the rankings, being Nebraska and Kansas State. Today, we will do 2 more teams, starting with number 23, the USC Trojans.
You happy with this? You all right with this?
I'm good with it, yes.
Well, because you did the classic thing of not helping me put the rankings together and then complained 20 minutes ago about the rankings.
Here's the thing. I didn't...
Number 23, USC, and then I get don't you think that's a little high? And I was like, I sent you an email. So number 23, USC is here.
So here's what happens, ladies and gentlemen. JVT created his top 25. I created my top 25. And then we put them together to have a team show set of rankings.
We put them together?
And, well, I gave you ample time to have a back and forth with this before this weekend, where you knew I had a bunch of family in town, beverages were going to be had, I was going to the Backstreet Boys at the Sphere, and yet you elected to get back to me at a very, very busy time when I was in a pool, and I would have dropped my phone if I was emailing you in the pool.
iPhones are water resistant.
So,
regardless, Brian Ortega at the actual party itself was nice enough to respond to the same email.
I did have USC a little bit lower.
Okay.
I had them at 25, but I can appreciate the 23 here. I'm fine with it.
And I'll be perfectly honest. Actually, I very much debate what I want to do with USC. To me, it starts at quarterback. Jaden Mayava is the effective starter for USC at quarterback heading into this year.
Former UNLV Rebel, who you know very well.
And I covered that year was one of the years where I was really with the team almost every week, covering it quite a bit. Went out to the bowl. That was actually the year we went out to the bowl game, right?
Yep.
Those nice young men in the streets of Arizona recognized you, were very big fans of you. And you might remember this, covering that bowl game, one of the big issues for Jaden Mayava is he puts the ball in danger a lot. He is very loose with the football, will throw a lot of interceptions. In fact, if I remember correctly, when he took over the USC starting job last year, his first drop back was a pick 6. It was very fitting for what Mayava did, and I just don't trust him at the quarterback position. There's a lot of talent coming back for USC in multiple position modes. I believe that overall this offense should be particularly good in the way that it is schemed, but I have a very big issue of trust with where the quarterback position is right now for USC, and if Mayava comes out and he is the turnover-prone quarterback that I have seen up close and from afar, that to me is where I really wrestled with, man, there's a reality where this team doesn't really pan out, and they are only a 7 or a 6-win team because the quarterback position is kind of a mess.
So I can further that even more for you, because I was on the sideline for the Vegas Bowl this past year, where Jaden Mayava started for USC against Texas A&M.
I was in the stands for that one too. Look
while
at this.
He did mount
a
wonderful comeback and worked out the kinks in the second half of that game to get a Vegas Bowl victory over the Aggies, he did throw 3 interceptions in that game as well. And it was looking bleak for a lot of the time that it looked like Marcel Reed and the Aggies were going to go on and get that win. They did not. It was interesting, though, to me, too, because it's hard to look back and remember the beginning of last season, but also in Vegas for USC when they get that win over LSU, you're thinking, wow, this could be a CFP contending type of a team. They go on to be 6-6, only get over 500 because of that bowl win. So, yes, what version of them are we going to get? I don't know, but I am confident in a few other areas of the Trojans. I like the wide receiver talent that Jaden Mayava is going to get to throw to in Mekhi Lemon. and Jacoby Lane. You get that Boise State transfer in there, tight end Lake McCree, who's great, is back. At running back, Brian Jackson, who we saw shine in that bowl game as well. They add the number 1 JUCO running back, and I like that when you get a guy that's kind of a lesser-known commodity, an opportunity to step in behind a much better offensive line now as well. And that New Mexico transfer, Eli Sanders. Defense took such a big step last year with Danton Lynn, and now I anticipate them just getting better with Rob Ryan being added to that group. Still some questions in the secondary, but I like the linebacker group. That defensive line actually might be a strength for USC all of a sudden. So there were a lot of things that I liked, why I didn't mind where you put them in the rankings.
Yeah, and it ultimately just comes down to, for me, I agree with everything you're talking about. The most important position is the most important position.
100%.
And so I tend to lean a little bit more towards 7 wins as opposed to getting 8 or more.
Yeah, what did you think of the schedule?
When you look at what they have to do, I mean, again, some sneaky tough. I mean, not even sneaky tough. At Purdue, we'll see what Mariota makes Purdue. I don't really chalk that up to a tough one in terms of road trips. But
that'll be cool. But Mayava seeing,
right? Yeah, I mean,
seeing Barry, he knows him well.
To that point,
that's
right?
going to be a little dicey.
You talk about a defensive head coach facing a quarterback who's got a turnover-worthy problem or a turnover problem, who he knows, who he recruited. So, and by the way, might have a little bit of an issue with him. Right,
well.
Correct. So that aside, the Purdue game, Illinois, Notre Dame, Nebraska, Oregon, these are all road trips for this team. And then you've got to take care of business and some potential coin flips, if you will, at best. When you're talking about Michigan State, Michigan for sure, Iowa, UCLA, I just think this tends to lend itself to a 6-6 or 7-win season more often than it does 8 wins, 9 wins for USC. And especially, like, if I'm right and Mayava is just a turnover machine and you don't get consistent quarterback play, I think this season really could go south for USC pretty quickly. You
do benefit from avoiding Ohio State, Penn State, no Indiana, no Minnesota either, which could be tricky. But the fact that you have those road games, I think, definitely could be true. I see them as 7-8 wins. I know you're closer on the 6, but I see 7 or 8. So that's why I see that win total is very appropriate and nothing that I wanted to mess with. Let's go to number 22 in the reveal, where we will put the Boise State Broncos. By the way, Mountain West Media Days getting underway from right here at Circa. Tomorrow we will have the head coach of the Broncos, Spencer Danielson, in studio with us on Thursday. But this is, as the Mountain West enters this season in its current form for the last time, the Broncos are in a great position to win a 3rd straight conference championship. And that's with life beginning after Ashton Genty. They are -130 odds as preseason favorites in the league. Win total here sitting at 9.5, juiced -180, I believe, to the over. Yep, there we go. +190 to make the playoff for a 2nd year in a row. You remember that lone regular season loss last year, 3-peat loss at Oregon, and then fell to Penn State in the CFP semifinals. This year, what do you think about them?
I think that this is a team that deserves to be the odds-on favorite to win the Mountain West, just considering the questions for some of the big contenders. We will not be talking about UNLV as part of these rankings because they're not a top 25 team. There's a lot of turnover there. San Jose State might be the 2nd-best team in the Mountain West, which puts into perspective, nothing against Ken Niumatalolo and what he's done with that program, but puts into perspective where we're at with this conference. So I think they deserve to be favored. The real big question is, again, on offense of the 2 most key positions. Maddox Madsen did a pretty solid job last year, 7.6 yards per attempt, 3,000 yards passing, 23 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. But turnover-worthy play rate was relatively high. 4.3% is a pretty high number. And that's really high for a guy who, a vast majority of the time, Stormy, just had to do this and hand it off to Ashton Genty. So what if Malik Sherrod comes in and he's not anywhere near Genty? That's going to be the case. What if he just can't even replicate one of those offenses? I just think this actually translates into this team wins the Mountain West, maybe gets into the college football playoff potentially, but I think ultimately if they do get there, we really start to see how much worse they are than where they were last year. You know what I'm saying? Like if and when they take on the best of the best, like that October 4th game against Notre Dame, you might really see the separation, but the rest of the schedule they should be able to manage relatively nicely outside of a sneaky like at Air Force, who's going to be a lot better type of spot.
And that's what I was going to say, because you mentioned San Jose State, not on this schedule. They get UNLV coming to them. This schedule works out very, very nicely with the exception of that October 4th matchup in South Bend, which I think kind of similarly, and maybe not the same result as competitive as they were against Oregon, but is reminiscent of that, right? Like you have to go to a really tough place to play, and this is going to be a good barometer for what type of team you are actually on the national scale when we get later on in the season or having that CFP conversation.
Although we did see Notre Dame, not to put salt in the wound, obviously we saw them last year, fall to lesser competition, but overall, I think this team, I think you can make a very strong argument especially if we'll say the worst situation happens for the rest of these Mountain West contenders and they're not maybe as good. You can make an argument that $1.30 is actually a fair price to lay for them to win the conference. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, I mean, this team looks like they should have 10 wins on their ledger. They should be able to go over their win total, but I think it's all pretty accurately priced. You're looking at these things juiced relatively high for a very good reason. 9.5 over minus 180. FanDuel has 9.5 over minus 225. Those are all markets that I think accurately reflect the probability of this team winning 10 or more games.
Do you see another trip-up spot on that schedule, or would you be interested in like an alt over 10.5?
I think you could. I think one of the potential trip-ups is, are the San Diego State Aztecs going to take a step forward?
That is a question.
Yes, it's your team, obviously. The first year did not go particularly well.
Sorry, I love my alma mater,
Yeah.
okay? I did sideline for a game last year where they had 13 penalties in the first half.
Yeah.
Like a penalty, and that was a very consistent issue for them throughout the entirety of the season.
Right. So is this going to work out for them? Is Sean Lewis going to be able to make them a little bit better? That's going to be the ultimate question. If they are, then you're talking about November 4th or 15th after taking on Fresno State. You get them at home, potentially a slip-up spot. And it's worth pointing out, I don't think they're going to lose the game. Jeff Choate in Nevada was a really good coach last year. Like, he got a lot out of the Wolfpack. They were a very good cover team. It's not like they're going to potentially lose that game, but coming off of a home game against UNLV that might be pretty toughly fought, to hit the road to sleepy Reno, to take on a team that's extremely well coached, you might find yourself in a little bit of a scrap that you don't particularly don't expect at that point of the season.
All right, Boise State, also the top group of 5, group of 6, whatever you want to call it, team in ESPN's SP+. Will they get to the CFP again? We'll see. We'll continue our rankings throughout the course of the week. But when we come back, diving into NFL quarterbacks. Yesterday, ESPN revealed its executive coach and scout rankings for the top 10 QBs entering 2025. We'll discuss our gripes and some potential betting opportunities after this.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Right now, more people than ever are driving Nevada roads with expired tags, fake plates, or no insurance at all. And if one of them causes a crash, if one of them hits you, who's going to cover your medical bills, your lost wages, recovery? The scary truth is it could fall on you. That's why Al Lasso from Lasso Injury Law urges you to check your auto insurance policy today. Make sure you have uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. This isn't about selling insurance. It's about protecting yourself when others don't. And if the worst ever happens, know that Lasso Injury Law is here for you. Call 702-625-8777 for your free consultation. No voicemail, no runaround, just real people ready to help. Again, Lasso Injury Law. They fight for you because your future matters. Visit lassoinjurylaw.com. 702-625-8777. Back here on Follow the Money, alongside JVT, Stormy Buonantony with you as we continue VSiN's football training camp week. Recently, there was a top 10 released of NFL quarterbacks according to executives, coaches, and scouts. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler pulled 50 different people, and this was the cumulative list based on their rankings. Number 1, Patrick Mahomes. 2, Josh Allen. 3, Joe Burrow. 4, Lamar Jackson. 5, Jaden Daniels. Matthew Stafford came in at 6. Justin Herbert, 7. Jared Goff, 8. Jalen Hurts, 10. And Baker Mayfield sneaking in at 10. Honorable mentions who are not on the list but mentioned in the article. CJ Stroud, who is actually 7 on this list entering last season. And Jordan Love. Other players who received votes in no particular order: Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, Tua, and Bo Nix. What was your biggest takeaway from the list?
Bo Nix got a top 10 vote?
Yep.
Come on. Look, there's nothing, and it's not an anti-Bo Nix thing. It's a, man, we got to stop being prisoners of the moment thing. I mean, Jaden Daniels is obviously the greatest example.
That's why we talked about that yesterday with Jaden Daniels. Like, the top 4, you can make your bones about any order of those 4 in my mind, probably, and it's okay. But for that being the first step off of your elite of the elite tier to be a quarterback coming off of his rookie season, because yes, it was an amazing season and got them to an NFC championship on his shoulders and on his back. I get it. But we have a 1-year sample size, and you're saying he's a top 5 quarterback in the league?
Not even that. You're saying he's better than Matthew Stafford,
yes,
Jared Goff, Jalen Hurts, and I'll say it, Baker Mayfield. Like, it's pretty nuts to consider. And I'm glad you brought up CJ Stroud. We've talked about this. This is like the ultimate example. like you said, Stroud was 7th going into last year on this list. Stroud was the co-favorite at one point in the offseason to win MVP. And
didn't receive a vote this year.
And didn't receive a vote this year.
Just kidding. No, he did.
He did
Receive a vote.
Didn't get onto the top 10.
But I'm just saying, not on the list
but received
this year.
a vote, correct?
It didn't say how many votes.
Okay.
He was one of the 2 honorable mentions.
Point is, it's a little bit of a fall from grace here. I would say this. Overall, I think that this list, when we're focusing on Jaden Daniels, is somewhat representative of what I think this Commanders team is going to be. Now, I will say, last year in contest season, because you can track the splits and everything like that, games involving the Washington Commanders, I was a fat 1-5. So I did not have a good read on the Commanders. I was too low on them. I thought that they were a team that was skiing over a little bit over their skis and ultimately did not come to fruition until very late into the season. But I think we're at that point now where we're in Houston Texans territory from last year. It was a good run. The schedule gets harder. There is now more film on this thing, how you're going to play him. You spend off seasons getting ready and whatnot. I just think we're a little too high on Daniels and by extension this team. So if you look around, Stormy, for example, I don't know how you feel about them. I kind of understand where everybody's coming from. There's a lot of love at this network for the Los Angeles Rams. Mm-hmm. And rightfully so, right? McVay's been great. Stafford, when he's been helped through that team, has been brilliant. You had Devontae Adams, which is a very good piece to have. If that belief is strong, true, in that they're going to be one of the contenders, if we're talking just purely MVP, if you're giving me Stafford at 35-1 with the arsenal that he's got and the potential that team has, that seems very tempting given that price.
I think that about Stafford and, quite frankly, Jared Goff on this list at 30-1. The Rams, by the way, if you do think that they can make that leap and have success in the division again, despite the 49ers coming back healthier, plus 195, that price. But yes, at the 35-1, I like the bang for your buck and a guy like Stafford if the Rams have that success. But Goff, I know there's a lot of people that maybe think to an extent this team could take a step back, not dramatically, not that they're going to be terrible, but Jared Goff last year was very much so in the MVP conversation until he had that crazy, uncharacteristic 4-interception game, and you say you can't have a league MVP that throws 4 picks in a game, and all of that conversation just got derailed.
So what happened to Brock Purdy
after that? It did.
It did, right?
It did 2 years ago,
yeah.
100%.
The Monday night game eliminated the entire profile. For the entire
everything
season.
else is wiped out. You can't have a league MVP that does that in a game. So there you go. But Jared Goff, I think, because of the talent around him, and potential narrative without Ben Johnson scheming everything up.
That's what I was going to point out. If he comes out and he is statistically similar to what he was last year, maybe even a little bit better, if they win this division, they're a top seed. Because the last few years, part of the thing that was going to hold him back as well when it came to voting time, whether or not he had that catastrophic game, was he was never going to get his share of the pie because the assumption was always going to be he, much like in his years with the Rams, was a product of the man that was calling the plays and crafting the offense. But if Jared Goff comes out again this year and does the exact same thing he's been doing for Detroit the last few years, now that Ben Johnson is gone, by the way, as too is his passing game coordinator from last year too. Mm-hmm. He is now the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets. So if you get all that turnover on that offensive staff and this team churns out still a top 10 offensive, efficiency, EPA, all that sort of stuff, and Goff is still the same guy he was, narratively, that is a very strong feather in the cap for Jared Goff this year.
Okay, I want to go through the top 4 real quickly. We don't need to belabor the point, but Patrick Mahomes, 3rd year in a row that he is number 1, despite statistically not being comparable to the guys that are below him in the next 3. Yeah. But it's because of the winnability, the fourth quarter fear factor that he brings. Although I'll say, based on these execs and the comments and quotes that we see in this article, losing steam a little bit as the number 1 guy. Josh Allen, obviously the defending league MVP, a plus 550 co-favorite with 2-time league MVP Lamar Jackson to be the league MVP this year. Jackson, 4th on the list, despite going head-to-head, like neck and neck with Josh Allen in that debate last year, led the NFL in QBR, set career highs in passing touchdowns, passing yards, and yards per attempt. Dual threat running ability, class of his own in that right. What did you think of the way that the top 4 shook out? And Joe Burrow being 3, the comments in the article about him, if you're talking just pure quarterback ability, he was number 1 for a lot of people.
I will say that I guess I'm not surprised by this, but there seems to be this thought that is really starting to emerge that the best quarterback in the league, now this is, of course, according to execs, and winning Super Bowls does matter, but there seems to be this prevailing thought that actually the best quarterback in the league is not Patrick Mahomes and it's not Joe Burrow, but it's Josh Allen. And look, I totally understand when you're talking about winning an MVP, the year you came off of. But we should talk about the reality where we talked about this the other day with Matt Perino when he joined us. There is a bunch of B-level receivers in that wide receiver room. There is a chance that Stormy, they kind of just, not flame out, but all of a sudden you're talking about a bunch of dudes who can't really get separation, who maybe do have some issues, and all of a sudden a somewhat, average wide receiver room does then by extension hold back Josh Allen and the offensive production he can have. The team suffers, his numbers suffer, and that plus 550 is a little short. I understand the love for Josh Allen, but I am surprised about how much time, and maybe I'm just too much online, but you just see so much Josh Allen, the edits, all sorts of cool things. Like, there seems to be a belief that this is the best quarterback in the league.
Well, I think to your point about the lack of wide receiver talent was a big part of the narrative for him in winning it last year, is that you do lose your two top options, and you did clean up the one negative about you as a player in being the turnovers and have, 6 interceptions last year compared to when that was a real problem for him for years in his career, that all of that came together. Will the regression we thought we were going to see last year in that pass catching area and what he's able to do take a step back? Will he still be this willing and physical runner that we've seen for years and years, for years to come? I don't know. I actually think Joe Burrow at plus 650 could be a pretty worthwhile bet, especially with what we think about the defense coming into this year. Even if they're middle of the row, you're still going to have to getting points on the board. You do have two elite wide receivers in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins that you got under contract now. So why not at plus 650? I think that could be worthwhile.
Can I ask you
any other takeaways? Go ahead.
I want to ask you about Burrow. Do you think if they're just barely 9-8, but he has a year,
they make the playoffs,
if they're 9-8, they make the playoffs, he has a year on par, if not better than last year, can he still win it? Like, do the wins matter when you're talking about most valuable player?
I think making the postseason matters more than the number of wins.
Okay.
But so I think to win that division, though, you have to have more than 9 wins.
Right. Because I'm just going back over like some of the history of the MVP and looking at the guys who have won this, which, by the way, as we know, it's been a run on quarterbacks. But outside of an Adrian Peterson winning this in 2012, you're talking about some quarterbacks who have been some highly seeded teams that year. Would voters look past it and go, oh, no, his defense has been atrocious?
I think they might feel bad for him, yeah. Sure. I mean, especially given the numbers last year and what happened to him. Bury that into what's happening this year. I think there's entirely a world. And just like we talk about, there are rules, there's exceptions to rules. Like with Coach of the Year, you have to make the 10-win threshold and do XYZ. Yet Brian Dable won it with 9 a couple years ago. So maybe there's an exception to the rule with Joe Burrow potentially. We didn't even get to where Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert are, because I was curious your opinion on that as well. But we got to step aside. We're going to the links, Northern Ireland, for the Open Championship next. Stephen Hennessey of Golf Digest is going to join us.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Hard to believe we are already on to the 4th and final major of the PGA Tour season as we welcome you back to Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM, Channel 158. He's JBT. I'm Stormy Buonantony. The Open Championship getting underway from Royal Portrush Golf Club in Northern Ireland Thursday. While that might be hard to believe that we're already on the final major, less hard to believe Scottie Scheffler is your favorite yet again at a sub 5-1 price. So let's get into it all as Stephen Hennessey joins us on the Progressive guest line, Golf Digest managing editor. How are you? And is that appropriate for Scottie Scheffler, especially coming off of the tough putting performance he had in the Scottish Open last week?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Stormy. I feel like that's the reservation some people have with Scottie at plus 450 and plus 500. But, I mean, the guy has been Tiger Woods in his prime-esque for 2+ years now. So I think the number is warranted. We've seen it shorter at majors before. So, if anything, you might be getting a little better of a price because the sentiment is maybe anti-Scottie, on links courses and on, some different putting surfaces. But, I mean, to me, if you're going to ask me at the end of the week who's going to win, I mean, Scottie Scheffler winning more than 2 majors the last 2 years just makes sense. He's played so well and just too good to only have 2 majors to his name. So, I have a bunch of bets. I'm betting some of them in the without Scottie market. But, And the thing is about the Open is, we're so subject to the elements and wave advantages and such randomness. So, this is probably the toughest major to get as a favorite. We've seen a lot of long shots in the past, but at the end of the day, I still believe in Scotty to get it done. But that's not where my money's going.
Stephen, I wanted to build on that really quickly before we get some of your bets. The point of this being somewhat random, what statistics are you looking at? What are you using statistically here when the course's best defense is weather, wind, and some of the undulations of the course where it seems to be more variance than anything else? What are you looking at in some of these golfers, their profiles?
Yeah, I think the best thing to look at is bogey avoidance. All things being equal, when the conditions are really tough or, whatever the case is over the course of the season, what we have in front of us is bogey avoidance. And that tells us, all right, this guy, if he's in trouble, off the tee or in a bunker, in some situation, he knows how to get out of it. And I think that's a great tool to have, if you are at the wrong side of the wave this week. I do think overall, like accuracy off the tee, it's a similar skill set to Oakmont, minus like the need to be that long off the tee, interestingly. So, I think accuracy, I think short game, and approach play, those are three of the four major elements of the game. But, I think bogey avoidance is a great thing to look at, in these links-like conditions.
With links courses being different, I know a lot of people and bettors like to use the Scottish Open as a tune-up and see what guys are firing on all cylinders. Were there any guys that performed last week either really well and you want to buy in on them, or poorly and you want to fade them coming into the Open Championship? Yeah,
the Scottish Open, I think, is a great pseudo links test. It's at least it gets these guys in that mindset. I think, to me, Rory showing us, all systems go before this major that's been circled on his calendar. I mean, for years and years, coming back to Portrush after missing the cut in 2019 in his native Northern Ireland, to nearly get it done. I know he didn't, but Chris Gotterup, surprisingly played really well first time being in that position. So Rory showed me something. I do expect him to have a great week. Top 10 is a good bet. The guy that I'm betting, who I was impressed by last week and the last 3 weeks, is Victor Hovland, 30-1. Hovland has gained on average almost 8 strokes on approach over the last 3 events. That's like otherworldly, guys. Insane iron play. Played really well at the Scottish. And what he did really well that has me wanting to run to the window is the scrambling. The around the green game has been his bugaboo for, since he's been on tour. But that was really good in Scotland. It was really good at Oakmont, where he contended, finished third. So Hovland has the complete game. He's been really close before in majors, and he's played well at the Open as well. Was in the final group with McIlroy in 2022 at St. Andrews. So, Hovland showed me something last week and in the past couple of weeks, so I'm getting on him at 30-1.
What else? What other outrights do you have for this thing?
Yeah, I got Tyrrell Hatton. I like him in the low live player market as well, but I'm betting him outright 33-1. He's been great, shown me a lot in the majors this year, so I think he's worth a grab. And then Russell Henley, I'd love this week at 65-1. I just don't quite get the price. He won this year at an elevated event at Bay Hill, tough field, great ball striking course. Finished 5th at the British Open last year, which I don't think anyone is bringing up. Has that links experience, and he has the experience under the gun in a major. He's been there, done that, and has a bunch of good top finishes. He just doesn't get the notoriety and the credit. But the scrambling is really improved by Russell Henley, really accurate off the tee. So I like his chances a lot. He was in the mix a bit too at Oakmont. I think he finished 12th. So Russell Henley, 65-1 is another good one.
Managing editor for Golf Digest, Stephen Hennessey, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. When you look further down, not necessarily just in the outright markets, but there's so many different ways you can bet these events. And I know you've given out a ton of profitable top 20s, top 10s. Are there other markets that you're looking at this weekend that you've fired on?
Yeah, I like, so backing up Russell Henley as a placement bet, plus 500 as a top 10. I think top 20 is a great bet. Justin Rose over Brooks Koepka. If you have access to that matchup, I like that a lot. Justin Rose top 10 in Scotland last week and was so close last year at the British Open. Koepka's really done nothing. So I like that. Like I said, the top live player, I think Tyrrell Hatton has a great shot at that. And then in terms of matchups in general, I would look at fading Bryson this week. It's intriguing to see what he does at the Open in this kind of a test. I just don't know if he could rein in his power for 72 holes here. I'm fascinated to watch, and I sort of hope he does just because it's a great story. But I just see him getting in a ton of trouble here, even if he's hitting irons off the tee. There's just trouble everywhere here, and placement off the tee and on approach isn't always his strong suit. So, I would look to fade Bryson in both live golfer markets and matchup markets.
To that point, any other golfers you would look to play against in some of these matchups? Or do you have any matchups that you have?
Yeah. So the Rose over Koepka one, I think, is a good one. I do like Victor Hovland over Justin Thomas as well. Justin Thomas has a weird Open history. So Hovland minus 125 over Justin Thomas, I think, is a good one. Other than that, I think all the other elites, I'm not going to go against, but Bryson, I'm definitely going to, push my money into the center, fading Bryson this week. I think there's some money to be made there.
JVT, where are you at? I've been waiting for you to pepper Stephen with questions about Tommy Fleetwood.
Well, it's not. I want to get his insight first before we get, but we might as well ask. I mean, since Stormy's going to bring it up, I had no plans to do so. Fairway Jesus, what do we expect for Tommy? Because here's the thing. I think, Stephen, I can understand trepidation about playing him as like a top, to win it outright. But if you're doing like DFS or like some leagues or anything like that, like I've got a golf draft, I feel like he's a pretty safe option. I feel like he should perform relatively well overall.
100%. I think the thing with Fleetwood is like you dip your toe in a few times a year, and once he's bit you, you got to get out. So I bet him at Oakmont, thought he was going to play well there and didn't. So I'm sure he'll play well at Portrush, was second here in 2019. Yeah, I mean, the guy all-around game, if you look at all the stats this year, top five if you factor everything in together. So, I think top Englishman is a decent market to look at too. It's basically him and Fitzpatrick and Rose. In pools and DFS, I think he's going to be pretty popular.
Great stuff as always, Stephen. Appreciate you. We had to get it in. You made the point in the commercial break and then didn't bring it up. He's slow playing you. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy it.
And we didn't have time for my Aaron Rye hot takes either.
I think we'll be okay. Stephen Hennessey, by the way, you can follow him on X at @S_HennessyGD. And you mentioned DFS. Articles up on Golf Digest right now covering DFS picks, bets, and ranking the entire field at the Open Championship right now.
Yeah, like I thought for Fleetwood, Kelly Bidlin had a great play on him. Plus 115 to be a top 20 play. Like, I don't know and don't think he's going to win at the Open Championship. I have a ticket on him because I just do that for every major, and I believe in him. He's my next whale, right? It was Hideki Matsuyama for a while, now it's Fleetwood. But I do think when you're talking, like he said, like pools, DFS, things like that, I'm in a pool, I have him. Like, that is something where I think you can feel pretty confident he's going to give you like a top 20-ish finish, and that's a pretty good leg to have if you're going to be at like 6 golfers or something like that.
Glad you mentioned Kelly Bidlin. Each and every week as these events go on, the Long Shots crew, Long Shots podcast, giving out their best picks, angles, thoughts on the course, all of that stuff. You can check it out on YouTube and in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts. We're going to step aside. Wrapping up Follow the Money next with our in-pocket plays. Stick around.
To determine the winner of any given college basketball game.
Someone gives you 10,000 to 1 on anything. You take it. Take it. Take it.
I bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day. No way. I'll give you 3 to 1 odds. Nope. 5 to 1. Nope. 10 to 1. You're on.
All right, we're wrapping up this Tuesday edition of Follow the Money with our in-pocket plays. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. First, a look at what transpired last night in the Derby. We got the exit velo prop home.
Where did you find the The exit velocities.
So DraftKings has all of those.
Yeah.
But the final results.
Yeah, like
of
where
it,
everything was. Yeah.
Statcast did a special section for their home run derby options.
You're a big Statcast person now, huh?
O'Neal Cruz had the top 4 exit velocities because he had a couple that were 116, then 118, and then the one that cashed at 119. So, bam.
Wow, you're a big Statcast person.
I liked that version of the broadcast a lot more than I liked the regular one. And
I'm sorry, I thought you meant the website because I know you like going to the website.
For the results that I was looking for last night, yes, I saw them on the website.
Okay.
But Statcast for some baseball stuff is cool.
Yep, see? Told you. I've converted you.
And I do have a bet for today.
Wow, I can't believe you're fading greatness.
Fading greatness. Caitlin Clark. I'm just taking a little bit of a shot here on the under 2.5 3-pointers, and I guess it's not that much of a shot considering it's juiced to -140, but capitalizing on the 3-point struggle she's had in general but yes, returning from injury as well. And the fact that on the road, I was stunned by that 1 for 28 from 3 in those 4 games on the road compared to 39% at home against a Connecticut team that, despite, yes, having some defensive issues, and that she did hit 4 triples against this team when they met earlier this season while healthy. I feel like they're going to be much more dialed in that area. And ideally, again, that game was at home in Indiana. This game's on the road for Connecticut. Not an in-pocket play, but I do lean taking the Sun plus the points today as well.
I will say, to the point of Caitlin Clark and the threes before we move on, just really quickly, a couple hours ago, officially named as a participant in the WNBA 3-point contest. But as we have pointed out, heads into the All-Star break potentially on a little bit of a slump. Speaking of a slump, yesterday, James Wood got eliminated in the first round. Byron Buxton did not get there. At least I think it advanced correct. And then the Dallas Mavericks +7 did not get there. And shockingly enough, don't have anything today.
James Wood, that was just bad performance from him. Especially, I think maybe it's inflated with it being bad because of how many people actually really thought James Wood was going to perform well in it. The money and tickets, I think he was the most bet person just because of what he's capable of and the value at the price that he was available. So that's at least for me somebody I was disappointed in watching yesterday. I thought he would be better.
So did I.
Yeah.
So did I.
See, you've actually you've been on Follow the Money this year already, so you have a record. Mine is just 1 bet record. Just 1.
It's very true. They do a great job.
Kind of lame.
How many times have I been on the show?
Keep it up. A couple. You've had 12
point,
bets to this point. No action today, though, but that is the Caitlin Clark under 2.5 prop. The best bet presented by GBank, the official bank of VSiN. And remember, we've got that $500 trifecta from GBank First Bet and VSiN going on. All you need to do is open a GBank Visa Signature credit card. Your first 90 days from account opening, deposit and play through $1,000 at First Bet. That triggers the trifecta. You get $200 in cashback rewards on your GBank Visa Signature card. First Bet will give you a $100 deposit match, and then VSiN completes the trifecta with a free 6-month VSiN Pro subscription. That $500 trifecta from GBank First Bet and VSiN. VSiN.com/GBank is how you can get more information. This is a one-time promotion limited to customers opening a new account in response to the offer. Will not apply to requests to convert existing accounts. Apply today. Terms and conditions apply. VSiN.com/GBank. By the way, last segment, while we were hanging out with Stephen Hennessey of Golf Digest talking about the Open Championship, we did get a final in that Minnesota Timberwolves Detroit Pistons Summer League game. The early matchup of the day, 89-73 ended up the final there. So the T-Wolves win and cover that spread that got out to around 4.5. It was a tight game there for a minute until it wasn't.
A little less than a minute. It seemed like a second. I will say one of the things that sticks out here, so 2 notes on this. First off, 24 points for Terrence Shannon on 9 field goal attempts. So this dude was balling out today. Tomorrow, a second leg of a back-to-back for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So a back-to-back and a belly-to-belly for the T-Wolves. Be interesting to see who plays tomorrow for them, if they put Dillingham and Shannon through the second leg of a back-to-back, or if they do not play tomorrow. Early-ish tip time, 2 p.m. Pacific time against Phoenix. So keep that in mind for tomorrow for Minnesota. But a very big win. They remain undefeated. One of a litany of 3-0 teams now in the NBA Summer League. So
and pushed down to 4-1 for that price for Summer League winner. The lone shortest shot favorite. The Kings are at 5-1. Your Hawks down from 80-1 pre-flop to 6-1 now, along with the Raptors. The Clippers +650. OKC, who is in action right now against Orlando, 7-1, and the Hornets were cheaper +650 before that movement with Minnesota, now +750.
You know what's going to be hilarious is the Hawks are going to finish 4-0 but not make it because of the point differential. They are only 0.3 points ahead in differential of the Los Angeles Clippers, who are also 3-0. So right now we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 teams that are 3-0 right now.
So based on situation, 3-0, point differential, all of that, if you didn't have a bet on the Hawks right now, would there be a team you would have interest in?
I mean, right now at this point, give me the updated odds right now.
Timberwolves 4-1, Kings 5-1, Hawks and Raptors 6-1, Clippers plus 650, Thunder 7-1, Hornets and Spurs both plus 750.
If you tell me that the Timberwolves are not going to sit their guys, not only just tomorrow, but like for the rest of the summer league, that Terrence Shannon and Rob Dillingham are going to play the rest of the way, then I'd say it's the Timberwolves.
Okay.
Even at the short price, yes, you could have gotten 12-1, but I think they clearly look like the best team with the 2 best players. And so now it's just about, are they going to play the rest of the way? Okay. But if you guarantee that for me, which of course nobody can, but if you tell me that's the case, then I think they're the team. I actually, to be quite honest with you, we're living on a prayer here with this Hawks team. We're honestly just hoping that they can make it in so you can do something with it. They've had 2 double-digit comebacks in this summer league to stay undefeated. Look, maybe it's enough that when they get in here, they're going to be fine, but we are very fortunate that the Hawks are still here.
I think it's fun, too, though, that because you and Will Hill are in on this together, obviously. We had Chris the Bear Felica of Fox Sports earlier on the program to talk through some college football win totals. And this didn't make air, but I was cracking up in the break between you two because Will is obviously also part of the Bear Bets podcast, the gambling group chat that they have, that Bear puts together for Fox Sports. They've been chatting, and Bear grabbed an 80-1 on Atlanta, too. So you guys are all in on this Hawks train.
That's right. Look, I mean, there's no summer like a Atlanta Hawks summer. So let's get this thing done.
I'm still laughing at last night during the home run derby when I don't get like into All-Star games, but I think if there is something about All-Star festivities that you enjoy, it's the home run derby. So I watched it in its entirety. I was dialed into it, and I'm texting you about like, I might not always bet things, but when I bet an exit velocity prop, that's going to be the one that comes through. You said, I'm watching some real sports
We're grinding summer league, dude. This is what we have to do. No. We gotta watch Clippers Lakers.
You're already looking ahead to tomorrow.
It's also a big rivalry spot, Clippers and Lakers.
Obviously.
Been a lot. Let's see. Just Summer League Championship. The Summer League runs from the 10th to the 20th, so I believe that would be the 20th in which they play it, and I believe that is the next Sunday, but I could be wrong. But it's the 20th.
So obviously,
5 days from now.
I know you.
It's not a Sunday.
Took the kids to the games this weekend to see Cooper Flag. All
Correct.
of that. Will you be
Well,
getting?
they also saw Ryan Kalkbrenner, Con Knippel. Okay, they also saw those guys too.
Apologies.
Yes.
Con Knippel had a good day yesterday.
That's right.
There you go. Not good for the Mavericks though. Didn't you?
Mavericks got smoked. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what you're trying to get to.
Yes. Eventually, we worked our way to it. But are you going to go to any more games?
If time provides, probably. I mean, I think I mentioned this to you, but we're very fortunate to have the jobs that we do, so I can just send a text and get 4 tickets sent to me post haste. So yeah, if I got some time, I'll probably go back down there and watch a couple of games. Especially if the Hawks make the championship. There's a couple of things. There's a couple of sporting events, Stormy, that I don't know if you have this with your significant other, but I have told my wife there's a couple of events that I don't care what the price is. I'm going. Right? It's Angels World Series, it's Clippers NBA Finals, and it's Hawks Summer League Championship game. Yeah, that's no price is too high if the Hawks make it to the summer. And God forbid it's against the Thunder, which is the other future play. I mean, come on.
By the way, OKC down 9-11 right now in this first quarter, about 3.5 minutes to go as they just got underway a little bit ago. Also, reminder, so we mentioned it earlier, the Mountain West Conference is having their media days here in Vegas. So you're going to have to split your time, by the way, between Summer League and the Mountain West Conference media days underway. Tomorrow we will do some Mountain West previews, and then Thursday we'll have a couple head coaches from around the league that are going to join us in studio on Follow the Money. Spencer Danielson, head coach of the Boise State Broncos. Dan Mullen, who takes over for his first year with UNLV. And why are you?
Well, no, I was just going to say, to add to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
No, an interesting nugget passed along is that one Maddox Madsen not on the trip today or this week for Boise State.
Yes, Tim Murray, who, by the way, great tease here, coming up on VSiN prime time for the next handful of hours. Waiting in the wings, chimed in here and said, "Yeah, no Maddox Madsen." Disappointing, despite being of age. Meanwhile,
what do you think they mean by that?
We didn't have it on camera. He did the windy fingers up.
Why would they do that?
Are we regretting all the nice things we said about Boise State in our ranked top 25?
I've never said anything nice. In fact, they all got mad at me because I called it a rinky-dink town last year.
Tim Murray and company coming up next. VSiN Prime Time, followed, of course, by Cashing Out in the Nightcap. Have a great day, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place.